Rachael from Marine Conservation Society will now be helping us look at how our bathroom cosmetics and clothing habits could be polluting our seas. Did you know that many cosmetics, like makeup products, face creams, hair care, and face wash, contain invisible forever chemicals, which remain in the marine environment for many years and can have a detrimental impact on the ocean and the animals within it? Our cosmetics are most commonly stored in non-recyclable plastics, and our clothes give off microfibres when washed, all ending up in our seas.
Hello, good morning everybody. Welcome. I'm just going to set up my screen for you. Bear with me a second. While I do this, just to let you know, there is a dog that lives in the flat below me who's been quite noisy this morning. So if you hear a dog piping up in the background, then I'm just sorry about that. He's just voicing his opinion on climate change too. Okay. So hopefully you can see that screen now. So my name is Rachel. I work as an education officer for the Marine Conservation Society. We are a UK charity working for a healthier ocean. And in today's session, as was mentioned in that lovely introduction, we're going to look at cosmetics and clothing and how they're related to the ocean and to climate change. If you have any questions at all, just pop them on the chat. If I have time, I'll answer them at the end, but it is going to do quite a lot in the session, so I might not have time to answer them live, but I will definitely answer them and I'll give you a written response. So ask any questions throughout and also at the end. So let's begin our session. So to find out more about why our seas are so healthy and why our seas are so important against our fight against climate change, then check out Monday's session that we did on ocean recovery. And to hear more about why plastic pollution is damaging our ocean and how plastic pollution contributes to climate change, then check out Tuesday's talk on clean seas. And both of these can be found along with lots of other really great sessions on Global Action Plan's YouTube channel. So today's talk will be split into two. In the first half, I'm going to talk to you about cosmetics and something that's called forever chemicals. And in the second half, we're going to talk about clothing, particularly focusing on microfibres. For each session, we're going to look at the problem, how it's connected to climate change and the ocean, and how we can take action. So I'm sure many of you have heard about the problems of plastic in the ocean and how plastic bags and straws and things like that can take hundreds of years to break down. But we often don't hear about chemical pollutants in the same way as plastic pollution. Plastic pollution has allowed us to visually see a connection between land and sea and how we're polluting our environment. But because we can't see chemicals, they're often out of sight and out of mind. One group of chemicals that we're particularly worried about are called per and polyfluor. I'll let you try and say that word. I can never say it properly. Thankfully, it's known as PFAS for short. There are over 4,000 different chemicals in this family, but they all have similar properties. One thing they all have in common is that they have a really strong bond, and it can take up to 1,000 degrees to break this bond. These chemicals don't break down in the environment easily and can be harmful pollutants for hundreds of years. Some chemicals are thought to last over 1,000 years in the environment. Because of this, they've been nicknamed forever chemicals. So forever chemicals, or PFAS chemicals, are used in many of our products because they have really useful properties. They repel water and they improve the texture of cosmetics. Around 49% of cosmetics investigated contained PFAS. They're used in makeup, in hair care, in shaving products, in face masks, and in other face care products too. So every time that we have a shower using cosmetics that contain PFAS, or we wash our face after wearing makeup containing PFAS, we're washing these chemicals down the drains, where they end up going to the water treatment facility. Although water treatment does remove a lot of nasty things before water can be released into the environment, PFAS cannot be removed easily. Therefore, these forever chemicals end up being washed into our ocean and eventually into our seas, where they can stay for years, causing lots of problems. But this isn't only a cosmetic issue. PFAS water repellent qualities means they're used in coats, tents and outdoor equipment. They're found in clothing because of their waterproof qualities, but also because they're used as a stain-resistant coating. Because PFAS repel grease, they're used in food packaging and in non-stick frying pans. And PFAS are also used in firefighting foams. Their release into the environment can be during their production, indirectly using cosmetics in the shower, washing clothes, cleaning frying pans, or direct environmental release from firefighting foams. PFAS are extremely mobile and they can be found in rivers and seawater, as we mentioned, but even drinking water. So it's not just marine animals we need to worry about. These forever chemicals have been found in polar regions, miles away from any industrial or consumer behaviour involving these chemicals. PFAS are currently impossible to remove from the ocean. So these chemicals can build up in the food chain, and they've been shown to cause problems in bottlenose dolphins, with their immune system causing problems with their blood, their liver and their kidneys. And studies have found health problems in sea otters, seals and polar bears. But what have forever chemicals got to do with climate change? Well, a healthy ocean is really important for mitigating climate change. And our ocean provides many important services. 50% of the oxygen that we breathe comes from plants in the ocean. And the ocean is vitally important at storing carbon in plants, animals, and in sediments. The ocean regulates the climate. And on top of all this, it also provides us with food. But the ocean is a very complex and very interconnected place. So if we upset one part of the ocean, the impacts are felt elsewhere. Chemical pollution makes wildlife more vulnerable to other pressures. So pollution could make wildlife less resilient to climate change. And in turn, the effects of climate change could make animals more vulnerable to chemical pollution. So it's a vicious circle. To increase the ocean's ability to do these vital functions, we need to keep their habitats healthy and free of dangerous chemicals. So what change do we want to see? Our government are slowly banning the individual PFAS one at a time, which takes a long time and has little effect. What we want to see is a group ban on PFAS chemicals used in non-essential items. We would like to see retailers and manufacturers commit to immediately phasing out all PFAS chemicals in products and begin to replace them with safer alternatives. In the meantime, we want products that contain PFAS or not to be clearly labelled so that we, the consumers, we can make informed choices about buying PFAS-free products. And we want water companies and environmental regulators to improve the testing to monitor many PFAS rather than just a select few chemicals. So what are the Marine Conservation Society doing? Well, we run workshops with other scientists so that we can collect evidence on how these chemicals are impacting our ocean. And we work alongside the Chem Trust to advocate for change to legislation. We provide information about better and safer alternatives to industries, consumers, and regulators. And we're increasing public awareness to allow people to make better and safer product choices. So what about you guys as individuals? What can you do? So you could choose PFAS-free products where possible. So by not buying clothes that have stain resistant in them, by reducing your use of single-use food packaging, and by choosing fluorine-free cosmetics. So Fibres have got a great website to help you to learn about what products contain PFAS, and this will help you to be a better PFAS-free consumer. And Fibres are also running a really great, simple citizen science experiment that you guys can get involved in. So basically you do a bead experiment where you drop a bit of oil onto your food packaging to contest whether that food packaging contains PFAS chemicals. And then you can send your results to Fibres and contribute to citizen science. So we've looked at cosmetics now, and now we're going to move on to thinking about clothing, its effect on the ocean, and climate change. So our clothes are made of millions of tiny fibres, but do you know what materials these fibres are made from? I want you to have a look at your clothes labelled now to see what material your clothes are made from. So your label might be at the bottom of your jumper, just on the inside, or it might be inside your jumper at the top, at the back, in which case you might need to get a friend to read it, sticking to social distance guidelines. So can you see what it says on your label? What material is your clothes made from? Do you have the words polyester or nylon or acrylic on your label? These materials are what we call synthetic materials, and they're all made from plastic fibres. With every wash and wear, these microfibres shred from our clothes, and a single wash can release over 700,000 microfibres. It's estimated that every week in the UK, 9.4 trillion fibres are released from washing our clothing. So like forever chemicals, these fibres enter the wastewater through our drains, and then many microfibres are then released into the rivers and ultimately end up in our ocean. 35% of primary microplastics found in the environment come from washing synthetic, non-natural clothes. So microplastics are tiny pieces of plastic less than 5 millimeters. And primary microplastics that are plastics that enter the environment small, like microfibres. Whereas secondary microplastics are plastic pieces that are broken up over time from something larger, for example, small pieces broken up from a plastic bottle. So once in the ocean, microfibres can be ingested, can be eaten by animals. Plankton are some of the smallest animals living in the ocean, and because of this, they're at the bottom of the food chain. I'm going to show you a video now, and this footage is filmed through a microscope, and it shows plankton filter feeding, which is basically like sieving through the water. In the video, you will see them accidentally ingesting microfibres that they mistake for food. So because plankton are at the bottom of the food chain, they're then eaten by fish. And plastic microfibres can build up in the food chain and harm lots of other marine animals too. Worryingly, microplastics have been found in many of the seafoods that we eat, including clams, mussels, fish, and shrimp. And one study found 63% of shrimp in the North Sea contain synthetic fibres. Take a look at this headline for me, have a read of this, and just let that sink in for a minute. So you wouldn't eat your clothes, but you may eat shellfish that have unknowingly eaten your clothes. Pretty crazy. So what do plastic microfibres have to do with climate change? Well, just as we talked about with chemical pollution, healthy seas are vitally important in our fight to reduce climate change. Can you remember some of the main reasons our sea is so important? So we talked about how they provide oxygen, they store carbon, and they regulate our climate. So we need to reduce the amount of pollution going into the ocean to keep it healthy in our fight against climate change. For more information about how plastic pollution is interlinked to climate change, then check out Tuesday's Clean Seas session. So can you remember this statistic that we talked about? 9 trillion microfibres polluting our ocean every week. But there is a way that we could stop this. So we are asking UK governments to bring in legislation that requires new washing machines to contain microfiber filters. But we also want to see commercial businesses such as manufacturers, laundrettes and hotels fit microfiber filters on existing washing machines. The biggest microfiber losses happen during the first few washes, it's hard to say, which includes washing during manufacturing of clothes. What are the Marine Conservation Society doing to help reduce pollution from microfibres? Well, we are working with researchers to gather data, and we use this data to campaign for change. You can sign our current petition on our website called Stop Ocean Threads, asking governments to change legislation on washing machine filters. And a big part of our work is raising awareness on the issue to help shape climate-smart consumer behaviour. So what can you do? Check the labels of new clothing that you buy. The worst microplastic shredding fabrics are polyester, polyester fleece and nylon. So where possible, choose clothes that have near to 100% natural materials as possible. Reduce fast fashion. It's estimated that we are buying 60% more clothes now than we were in 2000. And the textile production, of which clothing makes up 60%, is one of the most polluting industries in the world. And 1.2 billion tonnes of CO2 are released each year, which is more emissions than international flights and maritime shippings. You could wash your clothes less. If you've just worn something for a few hours or a jumper for a day or two, it doesn't need washing. You could just hang it up to air. And if you help with the washing at home, washing powders are abrasive and they loosen microfibres compared to liquid detergents. Fabric softeners have been shown to reduce fibres by 35%, and it's always good to wash at low temperatures, shorter cycles, and a full load. So we've covered a huge amount on chemicals and cosmetics, but let's try and summarise it with our ocean commitments. So, what we would like to see at the Marine Conservation Society is a sea full of life and people thriving alongside it. We want to see the government ban PFAS or forever chemicals. And we want the governments to make it law that all new washing machines have filters to reduce microfibres going down the drain. How you can help? Trying to choose products that don't contain PFAS, and being a microfibre smart consumer when buying and washing your clothes. Together, we can reduce pollution going into our ocean and help reduce climate change. Thank you so much for listening. For more information, check out those pre-recorded sessions on Global Action Plan's YouTube channel. You can check out our website and social media. Pop us an email anytime if you've got any questions. Thank you so much. I will answer any questions that you have on the chat, but I ran out of time now. Enjoy the rest of your conference, and thank you so much for having me this week. I've really enjoyed being able to speak to you. Thank you.